everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Endless Spiral podcast. You're all very welcome. I am, as always, your host, Keith Russell. On this episode, I am joined by Chris Sherlock. Chris is a radio broadcaster and also an author who has been involved with a book series called Mental Health for Millennials. Chris has been very open about sharing his own story recently, in which he tells of how he had to leave school at an early age because of bullying, which caused him severe panic attacks and which led him to be on the brink of suicide at the age of 14. Wow. Chris, thanks very much for coming on the show today. You're very welcome. How are you?
I'm good, Keith, and thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Chris, so as we were mentioning in the intro there, you're a radio broadcaster. You've been involved with the Mental Health for Millennials book series, which we'll get onto that as well. But Obviously we had a chat last week and you were kind of filling me in on your own story, and you've a fascinating story. So maybe we'll start with that if you're okay. So obviously, as I said, you left school at an early age because of bullying. Do you want to kind of give people a bit of an intro to how all that started?
Yeah, sure. So it started back when I was just going into secondary school. So it was, as you said there in the intro, it was between the ages of 13 and 14. So there was it was a whole new venture, let's say. It was new school, new building, new friends, there was excitement, but there was also a bit of worry in it because I was a shy kid when I was in those early teens. I'm not going to lie, I had my own little posse and I was used to that. And then for it to change was a little bit of fear put in that, if I'm honest, but it was going good, but then it just got basically put into a spiral of turmoil after that, because name calling had started. These guys that I would probably say I would know, well, I do know some of them that were in the area, and because they were in my primary school, but when we got to secondary school, it was a whole different ball game.
Right.
So the name calling started off and everything, and it was over the course of a week. And then into my second week, it got physical then. And that's when, what hit the fan, basically. It was more of, I was being a target then. I was in that targeted form of the shy kid. And, he's not going to say anything. We're just going to play havoc with him. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. Sorry about that. But so I was basically in the schoolyard one afternoon. It was lunchtime, and I just was ringing home just to let my mum and dad know that everything was going good, because I was still settling into that new school vibe.
Yeah,
and trying to get used to everything. So I would just check in every now and then, and I was on the phone, and all of a sudden these two guys came up behind me. And out of nowhere, before I could even blink or realize, I was pinned up against the wall. And I just remember this hand around my neck choking me. And I was still in that shock. And I remember that they were saying stuff, they were name calling, they were saying, who are you on the phone to? Just kind of really trying to jar me up and, kind of get information out of me, and just everything Anton kind of just thrown my way. And I just felt that I needed to get out of there. I needed to push them off me and get away from the situation. So I did try. I eventually did squirm out of it. And I went from the other area. There's another area in the school where it's kind of behind the buildings to where we were.
Yeah.
Because where this happened it was near a greenery area. And when I was pinned against the wall, they actually just took my phone and flung it across that area. So I kind of had to go get my phone and ring my mum and dad back, thinking, well, what am I going to say here? Because I didn't want to say that people are harassing me, or I didn't want to cause any worry, because I thought in my head, it was going around that if I just say nothing and do nothing, they'll eventually get bored and move on to somebody else. Right. And I know that sounds quite bad for them to move on to somebody else, but it was just, I didn't want to be that target anymore.
Yeah.
So I eventually rang back and I just covered up the situation that I was, I was clumsy. I dropped my phone or something like that, and the battery would have just kind of died or something. Any excuse at all just to cover up that moment was the key thing that I would do.
Mm.
And it just kind of resume after I kind of recovered. So that was the start of the physical aspect of it. Then nothing was said for a few days after. I was kind of reliving this moment in my head. I was feeling sick as well, so I did have a few days off school, and then when I went back, I was back in a few days again. And I remember the second scenario was, it was the main building of the school, because there was a variation of different buildings in this particular school, and we went up to the fifth floor to where this class was, and the I remember getting to the top of the corridor, which is basically, to actually paint you a picture of the school. So it's an old style building, and it's hardcore flooring all the way up each floor, and it's like a spiral staircase. And then on every floor, there's a set of double doors that would bring you down this corridor, and classes on the left and right, whatever. So as you get up to the top of the stairs where this corridor is, there was these group of lads. Now, I didn't know these group of lads except for one of them that was actually living in my area. And as I was trying to get through these doors, they were just kind of hanging around there. The school bell had just gone, and I was trying to get into class, and they just kept pushing me away. Said, you require money to pass here. You can't get past here, faggot. All these, common taunts that you would be getting at school. Just that's what happened basically. And then all of a sudden, before I knew it, because the school uniform was there, and it was a polo shirt, and I had my bag around my back. And as I was trying to get through, they kind of just grabbed my bag and pushed me back. And again, I was slammed against the wall. But this time the bag was taken off me, thrown to one side. My polo shirt was lifted up over my head, and I was pushed down these stairs.
Jesus.
And I just remember looking up in complete fright. And I just remember my side being sore. And all of a sudden, I looked at my wrist to my elbow, and there was blood pumping right out of it. And I was looking up at these guys, and they were laughing. And I remember being paralyzed with fear. Then I didn't know what to do, but I eventually got up off the floor, and I just literally legged it down to the office, and I just knew I needed medical attention. And then in my brain, it was a short enough journey, but I was trying to come up with the excuse. What can I say happened here? And I was still in that shock. I was shaking. I was really, I was overcome with fear. So I just got to the school office. Luckily, the school nurse had come in behind me, and she said, "Wow, she said, this is bad." She says, what happened?" Naturally, the common question.
Yeah.
And I just said I tripped and fell down the stairs, because I still hadn't got my bag with me. And I just thought, well, what else can I say that would, not spark any questions? And so it was just, anyway, she set me down, she calmed me down. She could tell that I was in shock from what had happened anyway. And she bandaged me up, and she said, "Wow," she said, "you're really, really lucky that you didn't smack your head off the steps."
Yeah.
It could have been a lot worse. And then that made me a little bit more paralyzed with fear. I just kind of felt the anxiety start to kick in. What I didn't know what was anxiety back then.
Yeah.
That these guys could have done more damage. I thought, okay, after a few days, it'll start healing. I'd be okay. But what if something more? I broke my arm, broke my wrist, anything at all was going through my head. So that particular day, anyway, the school sent for my parents to come and collect me. I went home. I was asked the usual questions, and I just covered everything up. So at this stage, there was no signs of me being bullied, apart from this bit of physical abuse, that was going on. To me, it was only me that knew what was going on, and this gash was just clumsiness in my parents' eyes that would have happened. I think they did suspect something was a little bit more to it, but they just didn't want to push, or they were just more curious just to see that, was it just clumsiness? Because it was just that way that I kept putting it. So that after that, I just couldn't think of a place that I could go to even say something to somebody, because I had this scenario in my head that if I tell a teacher or the principal or anybody, I'm going to be the rat. And this was the consequences of being a rat, where I'm going to be even more bigger target going
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
And I just thought this is just bizarre. So in the end, it took a long time, but it was just this. I had no choice to cover it up if I wanted to live. Was my point here,
Yeah.
because if I kept saying and telling them, I knew they were going to be out to get me. So I just kind of took my time, and I had a few days off school again because of what had happened. And I remember going to the school gates on my return to school, and my mum accompanied me this particular day because again she was worried about how clumsy I was being.
Yeah.
And I think this is where maybe their paranoia was kicking in, that there's something more to this, but we need to find out. And when it got to the stage of being to the school gates, I just remember looking at the school and being in complete, absolute fear, where I broke down in hysterics crying. And I was trying to make sense of things and
Yeah.
explain to my parents. Excuse me again, I'm going to cough. Apologies, Keith.
Okay. You're okay.
So when I was talking to my mum, I eventually kind of calmed down. I was brought back home, and I told my dad and my mum together what was going on. And they just said, well, you should, we wish you would have told us sooner. And we're going to talk to the school now. So the appropriate measures were taken then, to just go in, talk to the school, pinpoint who was harassing me, because I didn't know names, but I knew faces, because their face was embedded into my brain as a part of PTSD, which I didn't know again at the time because I was
Yeah.
only 13. So I just remember reliving all this over and over again. And the decision was made then that where I would be taken out of school for a period of time. Excuse me, Keith. I have a bit of a cough, as you may tell.
Mm.
Excuse me. I apologize for this.
You're fine. Just relax. Take your time.
So when we were brought back into the school then,
Yeah.
and I pinpointed who these guys were, and the only action that was actually taking place with these bullies were simply a bit of detention. This maddens me to this day, to be honest with you. But detention was basically issued to these guys that I could pinpoint, and 2 days expulsion. And to me, that was not enough. It really wasn't.
That's disgraceful. Yeah. Yeah.
So I just thought, right, if I go back to school, then again, it was going to be, oh, he's told on us, he's finally come out and said something, but we're going to get him again. And I just knew that this was going to be the case. So I couldn't go back to school.
Yeah.
So this is why I was issued tuition for a period of time, which was actually supposed to bring me up until my junior cert. But sadly, due to government cuts, they cut it later on before I could even get there.
Okay. So, how long did this go on for? The bullying.
The bullying was basically within the first few days I got into the school, until my third week, where I actually left after this scenario.
Okay. Did you know them? You okay? I don't know if you're there. Your camera's frozen.
Sorry, Keith, I have no clue what the feck happened there.
Okay, don't worry about it. You all right?
Yeah, and grand. I was just talking. I was talking to myself before I even realised the oak had gone.
All right, okay. Yeah, it was just frozen. I couldn't hear a fucking word you were saying.
I was yeah, because it didn't look like you were moving either, and all of a
All
sudden
right.
it just
Right.
said connecting. So I gave it a second or two, and then it just went completely gone. So that was
Right. Okay.
weird.
Yeah. Okay. Right. You okay to carry on?
Yeah, yeah, of course,
All right.
yeah.
I'll
So,
ask that. I'll ask that question again because I can stitch it together. Then it'll be easy.
yeah, sure.
You ready?
Yeah.
So, did you know the guys who were bullying you?
Yeah, I knew of two of them really, to be honest with you, because they were in the area, but one of them was more so always around, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So like there was two different groups. There was a group of two, and then there was a group of 3 to 4. And but the day I was pushed down the stairs, the four of them were actually together, but
Right.
one of them was kind of just to the side. He wasn't really engaging, he was just with the group. But then the other two were mostly doing the name calling. They didn't really do any of the physical stuff.
Yeah. And were they in your year or were they older than you?
They were older than me, so I'm not too sure exactly the year that they were in, but I'm guessing it was either third year or fourth year.
Okay. So you left school after a few weeks, and then what happened?
Yeah, after the 3 weeks, it was just get talking to the school. They were trying to get me back into school, of course, because I was going through the motions of I need to get my education, and I was kind of worried then because I had just told my parents what was going on, and I thought, well, I'm after disappointing them, and I know they're going to be possibly angry or disappointment, and they were the two things that I was juggling with in my head, but neither was the case at all.
Yeah.
It was just we just wanted to get past this particular moment and come to terms with it all. And so I was out of school for well, I never went back to school after that.
Yeah.
But I was encouraged to try go back in, and I would talk to my GP was the first protocol. I would talk to psychologists, child psychologists, and then later on a teen psychologist as I got older. So there was always kind of someone checking in on me, which was a good thing. My GP was very helpful, I have to say, but it was just when it came to having meetings about going back to school with the child welfare officer, who at the time was Michael Moran. He said, "Look, we'll put you into another school, and we will hope that this doesn't happen again." But I was telling him that this could happen again. I was granted the tuition for the year, and what was supposed to bring me up to the junior cert, but the government did cut that. But
Yeah.
they said even if we get your first year of tuition and get you back in to school in second year, you won't have missed anything majorly important, and at least you'll be back in school where you can, be with your friends and so on. But Keith, I was just so fearful I couldn't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the case. I said, if you want to see me continue my life, then this was the way it was going to have to be, because they didn't know this at the time, but throughout all this, there was meetings every week. Some stuff wouldn't happen one week. There was a lot of wasted time, but then during this time I would be arguing with myself, trying to even fight my way back in what I could do myself. And I just went one day for a walk. I was encouraged to go for a walk and just kind of de-stress, listen to my music and get involved with my hobbies as much as I could. And I was literally left to my own devices. I'm not going to lie. It's the truth of the matter. So this particular day I went for a walk anyway, and I just found myself near the Galway Canal. And I just walked along by it, and I was looking in, and I thought, well, if I go in and drown myself and basically commit suicide, I won't have any more worries. I won't be a burden to anybody. I won't be a burden to my family. I won't be a burden to myself. I won't have to worry about my life going forward because I won't need an education because I'll just be no longer here. I won't need to qualify well if for a job because I won't be here. So all this was going through my mind, and I
Yeah.
just thought, well, do you know what? Just do it, and it'll end it all. And I was moments away, Keith. genuinely, I was up on the barrier looking over, about to climb up on the wall and just jump in. I couldn't swim, so I knew that if I go in here, it was the peak of the canal. So I just knew once I go in, the current would take me. And by those moments that were there, these guys had come up, which happened to be two of my friends from my neighborhood area, who I was good friends with. So I did have my local friends here in my estate where I live, and they just simply said, "We're going back to our house playing video games. Do you want to come with us?" They didn't ask any questions.
Yeah.
They didn't ask me why I was there, why I was looking over into the river. They simply did not care. They just wanted me to come back playing video games, and that was just all in that minute. That it was the most crucial moment of someone offering kindness, and just that distraction went hand in hand. And that's why I'm here today talking to you. If I'm not going to lie,
Yeah.
that is really the case.
Jesus, and like, what's the odds of your two friends just happen to be walking by at that particular time?
Yeah, exactly. And I just thought, well, it was a saving grace. I don't know. When I often tell the story, a lot of the time is I do think someone was looking over me.
Yeah.
Lord knows who it was, but
Yeah.
someone was, and I just think that it was good that it happened, because now today I'm very much grateful for them.
Yeah.
I really am. So that it's that good thing to actually notice somebody
Yeah.
and be kind and reach out to people, because if they haven't said anything to you already, that simple act of kindness can mean the world of good. It really can.
And yeah, even just being like, giving someone like your ear to listen to, or just to sit there in silence and just, as you said, didn't ask any questions, to just offer you somewhere else to be. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you friends with them now to this day, or do you see them at all? Or?
I am friends with them to this day. Yeah. I don't see them as much as I'd like to see them, because
Yeah.
life happens.
Yeah.
They go and have kids, they're in college or they're working, and they have partners and stuff like that. But we meet up when we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. So let's fast forward a little bit. So
Yeah.
you're now on radio. You
Yeah.
are campaigning a lot for bullying and telling your own story. As we mentioned, you were included in the book series for mental health for millennials. You're part of the Bullies Out charity in the UK. Isn't that right? You told me
That's
that, didn't you?
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It was.
yeah, go on.
Yeah. No. It was with a TV, another broadcaster, TV broadcaster in the UK, Ray Jordan. Yeah, he's involved in it as well. He's a patron of it, and he introduced me to the service.
Yeah.
And we do events every now and then. A lot of it's been online because of the COVID and stuff in the past there, as I just came on during the pandemic era, as we were calling it now. So yeah, so it's good to be working with them, and some of the stories that I've heard are shocking, but it's great to see that there was light at the end of the tunnel, and it
Yeah.
was all simply because of people talking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what we're doing today, isn't it? We're just talking,
Yeah.
we're sharing our stories, and we're just having a chat. I mean, geez, I mean, you've made a life for yourself. That's absolutely incredible. I mean, the stuff that you've done. I mean, I could talk to you all day about stuff. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, the campaigning you're doing at the moment, or maybe not at the moment, but you've been doing recently, like you've been on
Oh,
the
it's
radio.
ongoing, Keith. I
It's
can
still
tell you
ongoing. Good.
it's still ongoing. Yeah. It all came about. You mentioned the Mental Health for Millennials book series there, and it was with thanks to Niall and Susan, Niall McElwee, Susan McKenna, and Dr. Phil Noon, who have this incredible book series with Book Co Publishing, and they have a 7-volume series. It's only in its 4 volumes have just been released to date. The 5th one is coming out on the 10th of October 2021, and it's going to keep every World Mental Health Day going forward until the 7 volumes are done. There'll always be that new issue, and it involves a lot of contributors across Ireland, the UK, and beyond, telling their stories of their struggles, because personal stories can relate better. There's got some stats in there as well, surveys, and there's personal perspectives, but there's also professional perspectives, and it's a remarkable series. and I was promoting this series for its volume 3, and we've done a mental health special on the station on my show, and we just had a few people in from volume 3 talking about it, and it was just happened to be brought up in conversation. We were talking about, of course, anxiety, depression, and all the stuff that goes with that. And I just happened to mention that I suffered anxiety through school and with being bullied, and that PTSD came up, and coming up with coping mechanisms to try and just deal with everyday life. You know, after such events happen to you, it just it knocks you back. You know, you become really depressed. You know, you turn to anything. You know, you just turn to maybe eating too much, overeating. You turn into being a mute. You're fearful of people, and that's what I was. My anxiety was so bad that I could only be around the people I could really, really trust and know for a long time. So I was kind of disconnected from that world because of the bullying. So we were talking about all this, and this is what had come up. And it was afterwards, after this show went out, that the publisher Niall rang me up and said, "Look, I'd like to meet for a coffee, and I'd like to talk to you more about your bullying story if you're willing to talk about it." So we met up, and we talked about it, and I told him the story. It wasn't as in depth as I just talked to you, because there was stuff that was foggy, and I didn't want to go and relive everything, because I was very nervous at the start of how it could impact me further. So I talked a bit, and we strategized a bit, and he literally gave me the offer there and then of how would you like to write your story for the book. You know, you've been a part of promoting the book for the past while. We would like you to be in it, and your story is very important, and the fact that you can share it with people, if it helps just one person going forward, it'll make it all worthwhile. I did turn it down at first, I'm not going to lie. I was nervous because I was afraid of recoiling back into previous matters.
Of course, yeah.
But in the end, he left me for a couple of weeks, and it was just after Christmas, that particular Christmas, when he asked me, and he says, "Look," he says, we're going hell for leather. The book has been put together. This is your chance. Would you like to be a part of it? And I said, "You know what? Yes, let's do it." So they all came on board, and they helped me out. Rebecca Housel, that was involved in the series, she was one of the editors of Volume 3. Dr. Rebecca Housel, she writes for Psychology Today and all this kind of stuff. She helped me because I could just about write my name, Keith. You know, I was like, write a book. I could just about write a sentence and stuff, you know. And that was more laziness than anything else, nothing to do with education at all.
Right.
But
Okay.
it was it really was. But yeah. So eventually it all came together, and it was put into the volume 4. Brilliant. And I'm very much glad I did it. It was a bit of, it was what you might understand this yourself, keep talking about, because I know you're on your own campaign trail with body dysmorphia and stuff, and hats off to you for that, by the way. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
You know, it's remarkable that you're sharing your story, and I understand the guts that it takes to actually share it, because it is hard to kind of open up. And especially us fellas, you know, we like to think, oh, we're all cocky and butch and all this kind of stuff. But sometimes we do have a sensitive side, and to bring it out, it is important. But it's not to say, oh, look at me, I'm opening up about my feelings. It's just men have the same thing as women, and it's perfectly okay to talk about it. And that's what you and I have been doing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it is therapeutic to talk about it. You know, it's like the weight's been lifted to a degree, you know, in those little moments.
Yeah. Did you find it was therapeutic to write the book, or to write your story for the book?
Yeah, well, I'm just one chapter out of the 20 chapters that's in volume 4. But that one chapter, it was a saving grace, because I could put it all down. Yeah. And do you know what it was like? It's like, do you know when you lock up okay, let's put it this way. You have a man shed, and it's cluttered with everything. And it's been so much packed over the years, you just don't want to deal with it. Mm-hmm. But then you eventually go, right, I need to tackle this man shed today. Otherwise, it's going to be always the same. So I opened up the lock. I let everything flow out, fall all over the place. And I sorted out everything in my mind, what I wanted to talk about. in the sense that I picked the scenarios that I knew I'd be okay to talk about that wouldn't upset me. And I didn't want to relive too much. I had to relive some of it, of course, because it is my history, but it was done in such a way that I could sort it all out and put everything where it needed to be and say, right, this is my story. I'm going to tell this part. And that was the therapeutic moment of it all. I could put it all together, write it all out, and literally get it off my chest. And then as I was sorting things out in my mind, and like what would be in my man shed, that everything was disposed of that didn't need to be there anymore. It was just filtered out and gone.
Yeah.
And just explaining everything out in a nutshell is one of the best things you could possibly do.
Yeah, it's a great analogy. That, yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. I felt very similar with my own story and just kind of sorting out the man shed, as you call it. Yeah, exactly. Where could people get the book? Actually, just we may as well give it a bit of a plug now, so people might be able to have a read of it.
Of course, yeah. So it's available on bookhubpublishing.com. And for anyone that's in the Dublin area, it is available in Rathmines in Hannah's bookstore.
Okay, brilliant. Okay. You mentioned there a few minutes ago about food, and obviously I've been kind of, as you said, I've been on the trail at the moment. We were talking last week and you mentioned that you kind of had a few issues with food yourself. Are you okay to talk about that as well?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, because obviously with this podcast, it's, I do like to kind of throw in the sport and the exercise part of it as well, the positives and the negatives as well. And I know you were telling me about kind of your, the binge eating, and which is exactly, I'm the same. And then you were able to kind of go to the gym, and that helped you a lot. Could you want to kind of tell people a little bit about how you dealt with food and your exercises and stuff?
Yeah, so this all kicked off through the depression of what I was going through, because I was left at home because I wouldn't go back to school. I was left to my own devices. So I would sit down on the computer. I would look up stuff. I always kind of kept active in terms of trying to learn. But in that background, the depression was there, and I'd be sitting down for days on end in the very beginning, and I would be basically eating sweets. I would eat any sorts of rubbish, crisps, ice creams. I noticed because I was eating a little bit more, I had high food tolerance. So I was just eating bigger meals. I was having bigger meals, and I didn't even know this to begin with. If I'm honest with you, it just happened. And it was just one day I kind of looked at myself and went, this can't be good. I was going up and down the stairs, just up and down to the room, and I think I just felt out of nowhere exhausted, and I only went up 12 steps, and I thought, this never happened to me before. And it was weighing in on me day by day, and this just like light bulb moment, as they call it, went off. And I thought, what's going on here? So I went to weigh myself, and it turns out, Keith, I was 16 at 16 stone.
Right. Okay.
I was 16 stone at the age of 16.
Yeah.
And I was bit like a bus sideways. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. And I thought, I need to take action. And at the time, I knew I had depression, and I was talking through all that. And I just said, I need to take it. I really do need to lose this weight. So I just went on this thing where I was a bit too young to actually join the gym. But I also didn't believe in gyms because I was afraid of going to the gym, because at this time I was just starting to get used to being around people. So there was the anxiety factor was still there. So I had all this kind of like building up in my brain. Yeah. And I just thought, well, how am I going to do this without actually going to a gym? How am I going to do this on my own without any help? But I just got up one day, and I used to always visit the brother regularly. I still do visit the brother regularly. We haven't fought or anything, but I would go up to him and I'd say, look, will we get a takeaway or whatever? Because he's a normal working day and just would be lazy to not cook basically. So it just suited him and me. And I just said, you know what? Today we're going to get a takeaway and we're going to eat ourselves silly, because I said, I need to lose weight. And we ended up ordering the massive dirty Chinese or pizza, whatever it was. And we had Coke and all this kind of stuff, because I'm not going to lie to you, Keith, I must have been drinking around 4 to 6 liters of Coke a day.
Yeah.
Now, like I didn't think I was drinking that much, but when I look back on it, especially when I was first doing the diet, I thought, holy Jesus, how did that happen? And I just went, right, I'm going to have one last binge and that's it. And that's exactly what happened. From the next day on after that, I literally went walking every day. I got into my mindset where I need to get up, go out, do a bit of walking, just get as much exercise in as walking as I could. So I still couldn't swim or I couldn't do that much. And I had a good bit of weight on me where I couldn't necessarily go running straight away.
Yeah.
So my cousin was a fitness instructor in the local gym here at the time. And he kind of just guided me to do little things at home. So because I still couldn't turn the gym or do anything. So I was just literally left to do those things. And I eventually started to lose the weight. But the diet was the key, where I'd have to stop binging and cut out the snacks, cut out this, cut out that. So it was hard at first, but I just had to cut down on food portions. One of the biggest things. I still had my treat. You know, I didn't cut off the treats altogether because I'm not a robot.
Exactly. Yeah. You're only human.
Exactly. So I just thought, right, I'll have 2 treats in the week, or what I don't. Well, that's what I got to. But in that run up to the 2 treats a week, I'd have 1 treat a day. But I would literally only have a small snack bar or a small few crisps. And I literally got myself into the habit of buying a share bag where that one bag had to kind of last me. You know, I'd go back to it and go, right, I'll have a few crisps on Tuesday, a few crisps on Wednesday, and that's it. That's the share bag gone. So I'd make it last 2 days. Whether before I'd probably eat a share bag and 2 or 3 small packs of crisps on top of that.
Yeah.
There was just it was just until I got full or I didn't want anymore. I was packed.
Yeah.
How I wasn't in food comas on the daily basis when I had the weight on me, I don't know, but it was quite worrying. And thankfully, I did realize before it got really bad. So I just kept doing that, and I eventually, after a period of time, I lost 3 stone. So this was during the summer. So in the run up to Christmas, I had lost 3 stone in that period of time, which was huge.
Yeah.
And I could see results. Kind of after the first few weeks, I could see it. Now, I wasn't one of these guys that would weigh myself every day. I wanted to, but I was very worried in case that I wouldn't see the results I wanted straight away. So at first, I did weigh myself for a few days, and there was nothing. And I thought, okay, this is where I need to like chill out a bit about it and just keep doing what I'm doing, because everything that I read online was all about diet. Diet is key, and it's very true. I'm not going to lie, it is. Diet is true. It all starts there, and then your fitness comes in then, and it's the determination as well. That's a key factor to put you forward.
Yeah, well, the mindset you must have had was incredible, but the information that you can find online can be a bit overwhelming as well, and it's hard to know where to start. So, I mean, the fact that you were able to do it, and like I said, you're on your own, and the willpower you must have had to do that was just incredible. Fair play to you. Well done.
Oh, thanks very much. Well, it was just that realization when I looked in the mirror and I thought, holy Jesus, I still remember that to this day. It'll stay with me for the rest of my life. Like, in other words, it was that cop on moment that really was. But nowadays I'm in the gym. I eventually joined a gym, and a friend of mine just dragged me one day, said, look, come see the gym, do a little bit. You don't have to kill yourself.
Yep.
Everybody that goes to the gym has a purpose of going to the gym. You don't need to be worried about stereotyping or anything like that. Everyone's in there to do the same thing as you, either lose weight, tone up, or just get really fit. And I wanted all 3. I wanted to keep the weight off me. I wanted to get fit, and I wanted abs. That was my goal, to get the abs and just look like a swimmer's body. Proper physique. And I'm a lot better now today than I was when I first started the gym, and the results do pay off, and the commitment does pay off.
Yeah. And how are you with the food now?
A lot better, a lot better.
Right.
So at the weekends, I would still treat myself to a takeaway and just, have a lavish evening. And then I go, right, that's my treat day. I can have whatever I want. But during the week, I have my snacks. I have small portions. I'm with a trainer in the gym, and we're doing calorie deficits, we're doing, food
Yeah.
management and stuff like that. And I do listen. Some things I don't listen to him
Mhm.
about because I love pizza. It's my favorite food. So I binge on pizza every now and then, but I do it within reason because
Yeah.
I know the point that where I can do it, and everyone will find that moment where they understand where they can say, well, look, I can do this today. I'm fortunate enough where I don't drink or I don't smoke, so I've all that going for me where I'm not weighed down by the
Yeah.
extra unfitness areas of that.
Hmm.
But the food is the big thing. So I am comfortable with food. But you know something, Keith, I enjoy food more now as well. Because before it was just like an endless pit.
Yeah.
I would eat and eat and eat.
Yeah. Well, you probably don't have the guilt anymore. So as you said, you can enjoy the food now without feeling guilty. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to tell your gym story that you told me last week. Go on
Oh,
where. Yeah. Yeah. You
yeah,
have to go on. You have to. I shouldn't
yeah.
be
So
laughing, but you have to tell it anyway.
no, you can laugh. I laugh at it now, but it's just it was a couple of years ago. I'd taken a week off the gym because I had family over visiting in Galway at the time. And I just went back to the gym. It was a Friday. It was the end of the week. I thought, right, I get a session in before the weekend. I knew I had to take it handy. I went in and I did a bit. I like to go in the gym early. I still do to this day, just to get in and get things done, so to speak. And I was doing the workout. It was going great. But I just felt a little bit, tired, and I just felt knackered more so than anything else. So, but I sifted through it. I just knew that the few days off were the killer, and that was going to be the case. So I was doing this thing called a leg raise machine. So you basically, to try and pinch your picture at home, you basically have this long, tall machine. There's a back part to it, and two arms come out of it, basically like a very, very high chair without the actual seat. So you're standing up in this machine and you basically work on your core. So you can do it with an assisted weight, or you can do it without. So I was just doing my legs because that was really it. I was just using my own weight to kind of do the exercise. So I would normally do 3 sets of this particular machine. And I remember doing one and I felt feeling absolutely hammered. And I took a break and I looked at my watch and I went to do it again. And as I was going to do it again, I thought, oh, hang on a sec. Give yourself another 30 seconds, Chris, before you pass out. And the irony in this, and I know this is why you were laughing, that I didn't realize this had happened at all. But in the space of me taking that break and going back to do my second exercise and my third exercise and finishing the gym workout, I finished the gym workout with a couple of minutes over, only 2 or 3 minutes, nothing major. I could have been talking to somebody where that time would go by, so I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
But in that moment of where I looked at my watch and paused for a minute, I did go and get some tissue to wipe myself down because the sweat was pouring out of me. With respect to your listeners, if you're tucking into a curry and me talking about sweat, but anyway, so that's what happened. And during that time of getting the tissue and going back to my second set, I had actually collapsed and hit my head off hardcore flooring, and I didn't know it had happened. It was 3 days later, following a hospital visit, which where I ended up in A&E, and I ended up leaving A&E because all they did was a series of tests. I didn't get to see a doctor at first, and I just took the weekend to chill out and relax afterwards. But I continued my day that particular Friday. I went shopping in Dunn's and I went home and I done things. But it was when I got home, I had just basically had like, it was like someone had smacked me in the gob, and just, I was floored. I just felt I couldn't go anywhere or do anything. I just felt so weak, and I didn't realize what was going on. So that's what led me to go to the A&E and get checked out following a doctor visit. And they just couldn't piece what happened to me. And they were telling me in the hospital when eventually, actually, I jumped ahead there slightly, sorry. So I discharged myself that day because I didn't get to see anything. And I just thought, I'll be grand. I'll go back home and I'll lie down. Because all I wanted was a kip. That's genuinely speaking. I was just so tired.
Yeah.
And I just thought, because I was back into the gym, and had the week off, and I was busy with the family. So I just thought, do you know what? Just relax, chill out, watch TV, take it easy. But I did notice that on the back of my head that there was a little red mark. Now, to be honest with you, it was nothing. It was like if you smacked your elbow or something off something and it was red for that short period of time. It had gone by the next day, kind of. It faded a good bit anyway. So the whole weekend went by. I went back into the gym on the Monday again and continued my routine as I normally would. It was all grand. Came home on the Monday, felt great, felt a bit more energized. But I'm telling you, I woke up on the Tuesday morning and I felt again like a bus had hit me and reversed back over me. And I just thought, what's going on? So I rang the doctor, went back up into the hospital. I eventually saw a neurology doctor and a cardiologist. And they were telling me that I was in a fight. I says, how would I be in a fight? I wasn't out at the weekend. I didn't do anything. Because I literally was just shopping and taking it easy all weekend. That was as extreme as my day went.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, no, you're in a fight. You must. And they were telling me that I was drinking and smoking when I had told them, even on the day admission, that I don't drink or don't smoke.
Yeah.
And they thought that I was actually on drugs, that I was off my head. I wished I bloody was, because it was just the way of the matter. But it wasn't the case at all. So after a day of tests, it turned out that a CT scan had eventually showed a hairline crack in the back of my skull, just beside my left ear. It was kind of the very top of the back of your head, if you know what I mean. There's a certain terminology in medical terms that it's called, but I couldn't even pronounce it, put it this way. But so the crania or some rubbish like that. Anyway, so that's where it was. And I just thought, have you got the right chart? I said it straight out to the doctor there and then, because that hospital where I wasn't exactly known for making accurate diagnosis.
Are you sure you went to the hospital? You weren't in like a vet or something?
To be honest, they probably would have been more helpful, Keith, the vet. At least I would have had a tetanus and all. I would have been grand. And I would have been flea and wormed, and I would have had a shining coat and everything to go with it. Excuse me. But yeah, so I just thought, well, the doctor come around and said, we need to, liaise with Beaumont in Dublin. This is quite serious, what had happened. And I said, well, I'm taking it serious, but I just wanted to make sure that, you've got the right chart. Because I said, like, I definitely wasn't in a fight, and I definitely didn't fall, or I didn't play sports at the time either. So I thought nothing could happen. So they, after they found out what had happened, well, what I've been suffering with the headaches and feeling really, really tired. And it was basically a form of, the word has escaped me there. Do you know when you kill concussion? That's the word. Thanks, Keith. I think I still have it. 4 years later, 5 years later. So yeah, so the concussion was set in.
Yeah.
And I just didn't realize. So I thought, okay, this is bad. So I had to literally go back and retrace my steps. So I phoned the gym and I asked the manager in Dunn's, could I see their footage? So it turns out that the gym let me see it before I could get to Dunn's. So I went into the gym, and looked over the footage with the manager, happened to be on. And I looked back at the footage and we were looking through everything. And on that very moment that I described, that I now know of, when I was on the leg raise machine, the footage showed me falling flat on my arse and go right back and hit my head off the floor. And I was out cold for about 30 seconds, where some people in the gym had actually walked past me. I'm flat out with birds around my head in cuckoo land. And then you see me rise back up in the footage like a vampire, literally so vertical, like picture me lying down flat, and then just my top half of my body going flying up. It was like one of those barriers that you pass through at a car park. It just went boom, up like that. And I just thought, my God, I looked like something from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And I eventually got up, and you just see me kind of looking around, and you see me sit down on this other machine that was literally across from where I was originally. And you see me basically gather my bearings, and I just go back to my workout as if nothing happened.
Yeah, like something else, paranormal activity.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I just thought, oh my God. And myself and the manager were like gobsmacked. And he says, how do you not remember this? I says, I have no clue, because to this day I
Mm.
never got any of the memory back. It was like it was just deleted off my hard drive in my brain.
How did nobody see you lying on the floor? They were just walking
Well,
past you. It was just
this
like
is
you were
it. And
having
there
a
was
rest.
people exactly, yeah, and there was
Oh,
people on the treadmill as well. And I just thought, how did they not see or not realize?
nobody
But
gave a shite.
even the manager that was there had literally, I was just stood up at that moment, and the manager had walked straight past me in the video.
Yeah,
And I thought, and he was like the head,
yeah,
it was actually that monkey emoji where you
yeah,
put your hands over your eyes and you go, oh my God.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Jeez, that's
it
gas.
it was a spectacle, I'm telling you.
Yeah,
I was laughing when I saw it myself, and I thought, Jesus. And the poor manager guy,
yeah.
the guy is called Jer, who runs Planet Fitness here in Galway. Shout out to Jer if you're listening. His nerves must have been at him, because
Yeah,
the poor guy didn't know what to say. But I said,
yeah.
Jer, what can you say? I said, thanks for showing me. But I was delighted that I got to see this footage, because I could then tell the hospital, oh well, this is exactly what had happened, and they understood then how I
Mm,
didn't know what had happened to
yeah,
me.
yeah.
But it turns out now, the result is I'm still under investigation with cardiology, but I do have a heart arrhythmia, I think it's pronounced,
Mm.
where I have a slower heartbeat than most. Now it's common in loads of people, but they're also looking at me for sudden death syndrome, where you basically could just have a heart attack and collapse, or you could
Jeez,
just
you're making me
drop.
feel bad for laughing now.
No, no, laugh away. Look, if I can bring some laughter to somebody, I'll die happy anyway.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Well, we're finding the funny side of it now, because you're here and you're fine and you're healthy and you lived through it, obviously.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, literally. Yeah. So look, it's grand now. It really is. But no, I'm under investigation. They're looking after me well.
Yeah.
I'm actually. I don't know if I said this to you in the call brief that you were talking about last week, Keith, but I do have a heart loop recorder in my chest
Yeah. Yeah.
to observe everything, and it uploads on a daily basis. But I feel like a DHL parcel, because they can just scan me and
And
just
they
know
right,
what's happening. Yeah. So
right.
I feel like I'm constantly in transit.
Yeah, they're
So it's great.
probably a tracking device and all. Like,
Probably is. Well, I just hope they don't see that time I was in Soho in London, because that was a busy weekend. Let's put it that way.
That's a whole other podcast. That's not my podcast. You can go on another one and have a chat about
Oh yeah, yeah. It's definitely over 21s.
that.
Definitely.
Right, let's move on.
Yeah, let's do before I get sued or you get sued or something hits the fan.
Oh God. Right, we better go and wrap this up soon. We've been here a while and we're both probably exhausted. How's your radio show going?
It's gone good. Thanks for asking. Yeah, it's been different doing the radio show in the last couple of weeks, couple of months, the last 18 months to be exact, because the pandemic has turned everything upside down.
Yeah.
So for the people that don't know, I do an Irish music show on Galway's Flirt FM, where I bring in Irish musicians, singer-songwriters, bands. I even interview comedians and do topical stuff like mental health, as I explained earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have a natter. So I do a session called CSI session, which stands for Chris Sherlock interview, where I dive deeper into basically the guest's history and life, whatever way you want to put it.
Yeah.
And as you can tell, there was a lot of thought put into that name and of that process, but we got there in the end. And so I do that, and I do my own podcast. Then the interviews from the show go up as a podcast, which is called Chris Sherlock on the Wireless on all streaming platforms.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, like where you find the Endless Spiral on all these platforms.
Exactly, side by side.
Exactly, yeah, taking pride of place.
Exactly, yeah.
And so yeah, that's the purpose of my show, and I just love doing it. But it's been harder because, like this, you're on Zoom, it's digital, things can go wrong. You know, the postman can knock at the door, the dogs could bark.
You can hear the dog barking, exactly. Like it's happened here a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, or somebody might be seducing somebody and they forget that they're on camera. You just never know what happens, Keith. And that's the joys of lockdown videos.
Are you looking behind me or something? I thought I had a virtual background on my podcast. How can you see behind me?
Oh, right. Fair enough. Well, look, I'll say nothing. What
Yeah,
happens
yeah.
on the Endless Spiral podcast stays on the Endless Spiral podcast.
I'll just edit it all out later on. Don't worry about it. So how are you now with everything with like your anxiety and depression and well, obviously we've talked about the food, but like how are you in general with stuff now?
Very good. I do have my moments. I'm not
Yeah.
going to lie.
Hmm.
There's little bits that creep in now and then, but I'm on the better side of it. I'm pleased to say.
Okay.
It's been a huge relief talking about it between the book and doing podcasts and shows and interviews and stuff. It really has been a help. Um, I all I can say is that little things pop up every now and then where I could be worried, but I don't get worried. I don't let it phase me. I don't let it overrule me. So it's just having that again. It goes down to willpower of just sticking with your guns and going forward. I've often went to concerts, because I'm lucky enough to be invited to shows and I'd be around people and having the chat and the banter does be great. And there's so many pluses that's in these particular moments that I go, do you know what? Go have fun. You're around people, don't be thinking like you used to, just no one's gonna be out to get you anymore, because that's where I was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I would just look at people thinking, oh, if I'm in a big group, I could be a target. And the bigger the group, the more fearful I would be. But it's not the case now, because I'm not worried about being around people. I'm more comfortable. I'll chat to everyone and anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And my job was a part of that. As I got into broadcasting, the TV and radio was always on in the house. So again, that was when I went back to hobbies. And I would look at all these greats that were on TV, like the late Gabriel Byrne, the likes of Ryan Tuberty, Paul O'Grady, many broadcasters that would be on TV and on the radio would just go, they get to meet these people and tell their stories. And I love hearing it. And I just love engagement. And if I didn't overcome my anxiety to the degree that I have now and get out of that depression state, by all means, it wasn't easy. I struggled for at least 5 years or so, if not more, in getting to where I want to be. Because it happened when I was 13, 14. It was that transitional period. And I was a young teen and I was still finding my own voice, my own way.
Yeah.
And just seeing that through my hobbies gave me light and gave me a goal. And thankfully, I'm at the start of that goal and it's great. So that's why I don't let it creep in. The door is closed on that chapter. Yeah. And I just relax in the moment. If I feel any way anxious, I just sit and think and weigh up the pros and cons of the moment. Mm-hmm. And there's always pros in that moment. And lately I've been listening to the audiobook of Dermot Whelan, another broadcaster that's been around for a long time.
His book is very good, actually, yeah.
Yeah, his book is called Mindful. He's a meditation teacher as well as a broadcast. Mm-hmm. And he does this 16-second meditation. And I've started doing that now in recent months, since he first heard, been saying it on the radio as well. Mm. And I just thought this is great. And my friend is also into meditation and stuff like that. And she was even saying, do this, just breathe, just relax, don't worry, take that few minutes to yourself. Yeah. And it actually pays off 100%. Some people might think, oh, that meditation, I couldn't be doing with that. But if it's not for you, it's not for you. Listen to a song, listen to your favorite song on repeat, and just get into your zone. Everyone has their zone, read a book, play with your dog if you have a dog, or your cat, or any animal, just talk with a friend, ring up a friend if you can. Whatever you think can calm you down, you do it, because it's very important.
Yeah, some brilliant advice there, Chris. That's brilliant. Really, really good. Maybe we leave that there. Chris, do you want to give your social media channels a shout out? Do you want to be found at all?
I do want to be found. I could be also found in a skip after some nights at a gig, clutching a kebab. Excuse me again with the coughing. Jeez. But yeah, I can be found on Instagram, Chris Sherlock 2012. I'm on Twitter, Chris_Sherlock. And I'm on Facebook under Chris Sherlock on the wireless.
Brilliant. Fair play to you. Is there anything else that you want to give a shout out or mention to before we go?
I think we've covered everything, Keith. I think you've got everything but a blood test at this point.
I'll be releasing this as an audiobook at this stage.
Yeah. No, well, I can give you a urine sample if you want. It mightn't be pretty, but sure, look.
Look, that's a different podcast. I keep telling you that. That's not my fault.
Sorry, Keith, but we've been exploring every avenue here today. So I just feel that it's now a necessity. It just goes with it.
Yeah, I suppose you might as well. Look, I'm getting out of here. I have enough of this.
Yeah. So grab the book, check out the podcast, listen to me Wednesdays, 4 o'clock on Flirt FM 101.3. You can listen online on the station. You can get me on Spotify, all these streaming platforms. You'll find me, just Google me, as they say.
Yeah. Or go on to Google Maps and you'll find them in the local skip. Right, guys. We're out of here. Right. Thanks, Chris, for joining me.
Thanks a million, Keith.
Yeah, very welcome. Right, guys, I'm off. I'm going to just mute him for a few minutes and we're going to be out of here. Thanks for joining us and we'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.